Everybody knows that there are two types of countries, the plain old regular ones and the cool and epic greater nations. At least I think there are. I can't find any on the map, but in Hearts of Iron 4 they are a bit more common. There are currently 42 different greater nations in the game, and some of them are clearly more great than others. But which one is the most great? Well, I'm here to find out. In this video, we'll go over every single greater nation in the game, from the tiniest, the most questionable bearers of the adjective, to the largest, the most massive, the true goats of the game. This is every greater nation in Hearts of Iron 4, from smallest to largest. Now, for a nation to be truly great, it must also have a large and powerful navy, so that it can exert its influence to continents beyond its own. But do you know what else is great and has tons of awesome warships? Well, that would be World of Warships, the sponsor of today's video. World of Warships is a super fun free-to-play online naval fighting game with millions of players across the world. Each week there is something new to experience, with fresh new content such as ships, events, missions and cosmetics being added on a regular basis. With stunningly vivid graphics, dynamic weather effects and captivating soundscape, World of Warships immerses you into every battle. The game contains over 600 unique and highly detailed warships. Choose your favorites from big and powerful battleships, quick and nimble destroyers, versatile cruisers, massive aircraft carriers and sneaky submarines. Battle across over 40 unique maps either as a lone wolf or form a division with your friends and take down your enemies together. So if all this sounds interesting to you, click the first link in the description to get started. And if you're registering for the first time, make sure to use the code IMPACTFORCE to receive massive free bonuses, including 20 days of premium account, a Japanese tier 3 cruiser, a port slot and a commander. And on top of that, you'll gain access to a series of special missions with additional huge rewards. These bonuses are only available for new players, so now's a better time than ever to start playing World of Warships, which is available for free on PC and consoles. So check out the link in the description and start playing today. And a huge thank you to World of Warships for sponsoring this video. Okay, before we get into the ranking, let's take a short look at the rules, which are gonna be the same as in this video. So in short, to determine the size of a country, we're gonna be looking at its state count. The more states a country has, the better placement it will have on the ranking. Included in the state count are all cores, claims and non-core states the country either has at the start of the game or can get without using the peace deal system in a relatively normal game. So any and all states you can get with your focuses or decisions will be counted, but declaring a war on another country and just annexing all of their territory is not allowed. Only cores and claims on foreign territory will be taken into account. Some other things I excluded from the state count are any and all war goals you can get from your focus tree, and any puppets you either already have or can get even through peaceful means. Those just tend to cause more issues, so I just decided to ignore them completely. And two more things. We're also not gonna be chaining focuses or formables with multiple different countries to create these globe-spanning border crime scenes. We'll only ever be in control of one country, so no tag switching. However, we'll presume that any and all demands we can make will be accepted 100% of the time, even though that is very unlikely to happen in a normal game. And lastly, we'll try to reach the greatest extent of each country on this list naturally, as I like to call it. This basically means that if the country must be fascist to have the attribute greater, then we'll do the fascist path, even if other paths would give us more states. Sometimes it might not be possible to form the greater version of the country with the correct ideology. In those cases, we're just gonna have to use some outside help to change our ideology. But I'll always mention if the entry we're covering is unnatural. And that's all. Let's jump straight into the ranking with the smallest greater nation in the game. As you could probably expect, there are some greater nations that consist of only one state, which is honestly pretty stupid, like you can literally only go up from there, but whatever. Let's start with Greater Armenia, which is pretty much just normal Armenia, as it can't expand at all with our current rules. I think it would be pretty cool to have a Greater Armenia formable based on the borders of the ancient kingdom of Armenia, And I don't think that it would even be too far-fetched to have this added to the game, as there already are multiple other formables in the Caucasus, so maybe one day we'll see a unique one for Armenia too. Probably not gonna play it though. Just up north, we have our second entry, Greater Bashkiria, which is one in the group of 5 nations with the best starting location in the entire game. Pretty cool, but for the sake of your mental health, it's better to stay away from them. Even further north, we have the Greater Nenets state, which looks pretty large, but it's still just one state. Well, at least it has a coast to connect it to the outside world, unlike a certain country. Way down in southern Africa, we have Greater Botswana, and again, I have no idea how it differs from regular Botswana, but good for them. And the last one-state nation is just to the northwest. It's Greater Igboland, aka Fascist Biafra. I wonder which faction you should join if you wanted to do a historical playthrough. When I started doing research for this video, there were no 2-state greater nations, but then the update dropped and Greater Macedonia got upgraded with 1 additional state. But still, it's basically just normal North Macedonia. It would be cool to get a claim or a core on the state of Central Macedonia, but I guess the devs have better things to do than to add unique content to 2-state releasable nations. Next up, we have 4 different 3-state nations. The first one of them is the Greater Pompeii Union State. And here's a surprise, it's actually communist. I guess that it's by no means impossible for an irredentist greater nation to be communist, but it's still pretty rare to see. Then there is Greater Albania, and despite Albania having some obvious historical targets of expansion, it has no claims or cores other than the 3 in its territory. However, Greater Albania can grow all the way to 7 states if Italy turns them into a protectorate and then recognizes Albanian claims on their neighbors. Unfortunately, that would be outside influence, which we banned. So Albania will stay at the bottom end of the list. Up next is Greater Hanover, one of the releasable German kingdoms. Did you know that any of these kingdoms can now form Germany? And that also applies to Luxembourg and Volga Germany. What? This update is crazy. Now, I also decided to include Fascist Colombia, aka Nueva Gran Colombia, because that basically just means Great or Greater Colombia. I was debating a lot which countries I should and which countries I shouldn't include in this video. At first I was thinking about adding every grand nation too, but I decided against it. Mainly because I think that the adjective grand doesn't exactly have the same irredentist connotations as greater. And also because most of them were grand duchies. But what I decided to include is any country with a word in their name that could be directly translated to great or greater. Now, I'm not a polyglot or anything, so there might be some that I missed, but luckily there aren't that many countries with their names in other languages than English. But if I were at least 90% sure that the name translated to greater or something like that, I included them in the list. Next up, we have the 4-state countries, which there are 4. In eastern Siberia, we have the Greater Siberian State, which only controls like 1/6 of Siberia, but that's basically expected at this point. Back in Africa, we have the Greater Kenyan Empire, and hey, it's both greater and an empire. That's pretty much the coolest a country can be. Now, if only it would differ in any way from normal Kenya, then that would be great, but I guess not. There's also the Greater Flemish State, and at first I thought that this one didn't even exist. It was in the localization files, but when I went down the Flemish path with Belgium, the name was completely different. But apparently, you can release the Greater Flemish State with Germany with the monarchist/democratic path, specifically with this focus. But of course, the Greater Flemish State must be fascist, but you can actually do that in a normal game. By expatriating the communists, you get an advisor that boosts fascism support. So by utilizing him, you can become the German Volksreich. What the hell? Now you can finally do the puppet focus and release the Greater Flemish State, which has a total of 4 states. And the first entry with a unique focus tree of its own is Greater Paraguay. And this, I think, is a perfect example of a greater nation. Nothing too crazy, but still a noticeable improvement. And the way you form it is also so good. You aren't forced to capitulate the entirety of Brazil and Argentina just to get one state from each. Instead, you get an option to white piece them after you occupy your target states. And I just love this. These shorter and smaller scale wars are something I'd really like to see more in Hoi 4. But unfortunately for Paraguay, the other Quay has it beat by one state. This is Greater Uruguay, and I mean just come on. Look at how good these two look. Damn. But anyways, it's basically the same as Paraguay. Occupy 2 states and you get to keep them. Together, these two are one of my favorite formables in the entire game. Like, even though they really aren't anything too special, my monkey brain just likes looking at this. Back in Europe, we have another 5-state one. This time it's a kinda obscure Greater...
CK.
CK land. This is basically just Transylvania, which gets a unique cosmetic tag if Social Democratic Hungary does this focus, and Romania agrees to give away Northern Transylvania to make it a Hungarian puppet. The puppet still has all its cores, which count up to 5. Oh, and it must be fascist too, so this is kinda unnatural. But hold on, you could get a total of 38 states if you first release Transylvania as normal and then let it form the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and then release all the conquered territories and let Hungary do the focused now. Then the Greater CK land will have a total state count of 38, but that is literally never happening, so we'll just stick with 5. Now we jump up all the way to the double digits with the Greater Indonesian Confederacy. It's the democratic version of the United Indonesian formable, and it has 11 states, now including Portuguese Timor. I also wish that this one could have additional decisions to maybe call the rest of New Guinea and maybe even the Philippines. Like, I know that it wouldn't really make sense, but come on, this looks pretty cool. Up in northern Scandinavia, we have the Greater Sami realm with 12 states. Did you know that they also have quite a few unique portraits, which is pretty rare for a releasable nation? Next up, we have another country with a unique-ish focus tree. It's one of the Ethiopian releasables, Greater Oromo territories, which, with the help of these focuses, can get a total of 16 states. 16 is also the number of states in the Kingdom of Greater Greece, but unfortunately, this is another unnatural entry. Despite there being 2 different ways to form Greater Greece, neither of them can be done while staying non-aligned. The metaxist path turns you fascist, and the democratic path turns you, well, democratic. Or fascist again, weirdly enough. But if you do either of those 2 and then somehow turn non-aligned, the Greater Kingdom of Greece will be established, which can get 1 extra state if you do this decision. The next one is also kinda obscure. It's the Greater Ukrainian Reich, which is a unique name for Ukraine that is a dominion of monarchist Germany. It's not even a Reichskommissariat or a Grand Duchy, but just normal Ukraine with this weirdly specific condition. Either way, it has 23 states. Now I have to say, the new Grand Colombia kinda sucks, because the old one has 27 states, almost 10 times more. To get the maximum number of states, you'll have to play as Peru and form the Peru-Bolivian Confederation before you form Grand Colombia. Then you just need to overthrow your dictator and become a democracy. And there it is. Next up, we have Ditsland with 28 states. Now I know what you're thinking, but look at this. Checkmate. So if I'm not completely wrong, Ditsland is the would-be name for Greater Netherlands if it were achieved. So obviously, this one can be formed with Belgium. Ditsland actually isn't that big. I mean, it's only the Benelux countries and the state of Calais. Basically half of your states are in Africa, because as Belgium, you can annex your Congolese colony and then get some additional claims on neighboring African states. The rest of the focus tree could offer you some more states, but those are locked behind 2 additional formables. Like, why does this one path have 4 different formables? I mean, I'm not complaining, but why? The next 3 countries are basically all the same. They are the Greater Ethiopian Union, the Greater Jiman Union, and the Greater Gojami Union, and all of them can get a maximum of 30 states. Each one of them is a version of the Italian collaborationist government you can play as with the fascist path. But to become the greater versions of themselves, they must first break free and then conquer some territories. Now they can evolve to their greater union form. But if you want to core one extra state, you must first form the Horn of Africa and then the greater union. That way you'll reach the full 30 states. Next up is Greater Lithuania, the Lithuanian formable that doesn't include Poland, only the Lithuanian parts of the Commonwealth. This doesn't mean that we can't subjugate Poland too. Either way, this formable has 47 states. And so does the Greater Lithuanian People's Republic, the unnatural communist version of the same formable. A bit to the northwest we have the Større Danske Republik. It's basically the Danish Republic, but great, I think. It's the quote-unquote secret Danish formable, which you can form with an event after you fulfill some specific requirements. It basically only gives you cores on Scania and these northern German states, but only if you already occupy them. But if you manage to form the Nordic Union before firing the event, you will have a total of 54 states. Next up we have Greater Portugal with 55 states. Now this doesn't look like much, but the fascist path gives you tons of claims on all your colonial ambitions. Brazil, Southern Africa and the East Indies are yours for the taking. The Portuguese colonial empire is back, baby. No new cores though, which kinda sucks. Then we have Greater Finland with 68 states, and this is way more than I expected. On top of the cores you get from the Greater Finland focus itself, you can also peacefully annex Estonia and get claims on the rest of the Baltics. But if you form the Nordic Union before doing the focus, you will also get cores on all of Scandinavia. This formable can be formed with both the non-aligned and the fascist path, but it's probably better to just do the non-aligned path, because then you can form the Greater Kingdom of Finland, which is basically the same as the normal Greater Finland. Just keep your first president all the way to the end and you'll get the opportunity to replace him with the nephew of the former German emperor. So much for loyalty. And the final entry before the top 10 is Groß Österreich, aka Greater Austria, with 69 states. It's basically just what if Austria united Germany instead of Prussia. With the Austrian fascist path, you can get all your former imperial territory back 100% peacefully. If you do these focuses, you can befriend your neighbors and they'll just give you everything you want. Who knew it was that easy? You can also get Albania too, because they really want to be a part of your empire. The greater part comes from these two focuses. Now you must take on your brother nation, Germany. If you manage to conquer them, you can core all of their land and then proclaim Greater Austria. So Germany, what was that Anschluss you were talking about? Now we get to the truly great countries. These are the top 10 greatest greater nations in HOI 4. Are you ready? Great, let's continue. Do you remember the tiny 4-state Greater Siberian state? Yes? Well, you really shouldn't, because at number 10 we have the Greater Siberian Realm with 73 states. Now you could upgrade the Greater Siberian state with this formable, but it's better to do it with Tenryū, because it can also form the United Turkestan on top of the Siberian formable. Just do the Turkestan one first, so you'll have the correct name. Number 9 is the Grand Republic of Greater Macedonia with 85 states. This is another unnatural formable. It's the democratic version of the Macedonian Empire, which you must be fascist to form. So go down the fascist path, conquer all this, form the Macedonian Empire, lose to some democratic country and hope that they don't balkanize you, and there you go. Greater Macedonia. Oh, and it's a Grand Republic too, so that's double the greatness. Number 8 is the Greater German Proletarian State with 89 states. To form it, you'll of course have to go down the communist path, but unfortunately, neither of the two subpaths give you any claims or cores other than the ones you get from this formable, which you can unlock with this focus. When you form it, you'll get some cores on much of Western Europe. We do also have the spheres of influence states, which seem to be kinda broken. I only ever got the Soviets to hand over Western Poland and Czechia. No other territory switched hands, but I'll include the states that did. However, there's one more thing to consider. Spartacus Germany has a pretty crazy mechanic. It can not only instigate communist revolutions, but it can also puppet the revolutionaries and then annex them. This technically means that with some finagling, you could peacefully annex the whole world. Yeah. But in actuality, there were just tons of issues with the whole revolution and integration system, which would have just been a massive hassle to fit into the rule set. So I just decided to ignore it completely. And can you even blame me? Look at these clean borders and compare it to whatever the hell this is. Yeah, 89 is a totally good number. And also, there's the unnatural democratic version of this formable called Greater German State, and everything I said before applies here too. At the 6th spot we have, quite ironically, the Greater Austrian Empire with 90 states. It's almost the same as the normal Greater Austria, but this one has a few extra steps. Here's everything you need to do. Okay, first go down the monarchist empire path and get all your former territories back. Then you must also annex Switzerland with this focus. Now you'll need to do these two focuses and conquer Germany. But do not form the Greater Austrian Empire yet. Instead, you'll want to invite over the royals of Liechtenstein and do this focus too. Now if you wait a bit, the Kaiser, Otto von Habsburg, will get bored of ruling and you can replace him with the King of Liechtenstein, which turns the whole country into Liechtenstein. This for some reason allows you to form the Holy Roman Empire, which gives you a few extra cores. Now you can finally do the decision to form the Greater Austrian Empire, and there you go. Oh, and also purchase Alaska from the United States, because apparently that's something Liechtenstein tried to do. So, you got all that? That's great. And so is this empire. At number 5 we have Det Stornordiska Riket with 91 states. I think it translates to something like the Great Nordic Reich. I don't know, something like that. You already know how to start. Form the Nordic Union and get cores on all of the Nordic countries. Then, with either the fascist or the monarchist path, do these two focuses and get all these claims on the Soviet Union. Additionally, you can get all your former colonies back if you join the Allies and just ask for them nicely. This includes the state of New Jersey, which the Americans might just hand over to you, which is pretty funny. So all in all, you can get 91 states. The number 4 spot goes to Greater South America, the fascist form of the peacefully united South America. And of course, peaceful unification is something you can't do while fascist. At least I think so. There might be some hijinks you can do with the fascist referendum, which might allow you to reach this final focus and then turn fascist, but I couldn't get it to work. But that's not all bad, because now we can use the monarchist path, which gives us way more states, and then we'll just unnaturally turn fascist afterwards. So if you do this focus, you can invite other South and Central American countries into your faction, and then integrate them. If you do this in a game with decolonized Americas, you can get some additional states, totaling up to 120. We start the top 3 with Greater Italy, which has a total of 123 states. And first off, why does Greater Italy have 4 fewer states than the Italian Empire from my first video? Honestly, I have no clue. Like, even though I formed it a bit differently this time, it should have more states than before, not fewer. But I don't know, maybe I just miscalculated. So, Greater Italy is the budget Roman Empire, despite actually giving you quite a lot of claims. But that's it, they're just claims, which makes this formable basically useless. But it's cool that it exists as a goal for a more historical playthrough. And also, you can actually get the most claims with the Guarantee Austria path, because this focus at the end of it gives you 11 claims on the coast of the Black Sea, which is more than what any other path gives you. And number 2. This is Greater Hungary. In an universe where Hearts of Iron borders are at least halfway realistic, because this is what Greater Hungary actually looks like. Yeah, 176 states. So, of course you can get all your former territory back with these focuses at the bottom of the fascist path. But if you do the alternate fascist path and then do this focus, you unlock a hidden focus, which gives you claims on most of the Finno-Ugric and Turkic territories. So this is basically just Turan 2.0. And that's how an 18-state crater nation turns into a 176-state one. But still, it's not enough to reach the number 1 spot. And I'm guessing that you already know which country is number 1. But first, if you're enjoying the video, hit that subscribe button. I'd appreciate it greatly. Thank you. Okay, let's jump straight to number 1. And to no one's surprise, the number 1 largest crater nation in Voi 4 is Greater Germany, with 679 states. That is over 2/3 of all the states on the map. What the hell? So how do you get all this? First off, you need to choose the ahistorical focus path, specifically the imperial path. Then, if you do the European Confederation focus, you can puppet and then integrate every single European country, and that includes all their colonies too. And on top of that, you can form the European Union, which gives you cores on most of that land. Jesus. Then, with a few different focuses, you can get over 100 claims all over the world. And that's how you get 679 states. Now just do the thing I showed you earlier, where you become the German Volksreich, and finally do the New Order decision and form Greater Germany. And all this in a game without any unintended trickery. What the hell is this focus tree? Alright, so that was every crater nation in Hearts of Iron 4. Here are again some stats for you. This is how many crater nations were on different continents. These are all the countries in the game which have a crater form. Here's the chart for the ideologies. And here's the chart for how each crater nation was formed. And this is how many of them were starting nations and how many were releasable nations. Thank you for watching, and thanks again to World of Warships for sponsoring today's video. Make sure to check out World of Warships from the first link in the description. And if you're a first-time player, remember to use the code IMPACTFORCE to enjoy a bunch of free bonuses. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and I hope I see you on the next one. Bye bye.